this seems, I have to tell you, it seems very simple to me. Yet you're describing this as somehow something new in the world of computers.
Well, that's right. And what I believe is that if it takes 200 years to achieve artificial intelligence, and then finally there is a textbook that explains how it's done, the hardest part of that textbook to write will be the part that explains why people didn't think of it 200 years ago. Because we're really talking about how to make machines do things that are really on the surface of our minds. It's just that our ability to observe our own mental processes is not very good and has not been very good. And we can look at that historically. When we look at Leibniz, who was an extremely smart scientist, he was the co-inventor of calculus with Isaac Newton. He wanted to make a logical calculus that would permit calculation instead of argument. And he invented binary numbers in this case, but he didn't even invent propositional calculus. That was invented by Boole 150 years later. And then Boole didn't invent predicate calculus. So what one sees is that each step in understanding of thought processes has taken time.
In fact, what you're saying reminds me very much of the story of Socrates, who went around questioning people in all of the different professions in Greece 2,500 years ago, and discovered that while these people were quite competent at what they did, he said, well, they're all ignorant. None of them can tell me how they do what they do, when he questioned them closely. And you seem to be engaged in a process very much like, you know, the second step beyond what he was doing.
Yes, well, Socrates was, as I understand it, mainly interested in demonstrating people's ignorance. But now we're really trying to say, well, how can we make computers actually carry out these processes?
So it's a whole different program.
That's right, yeah.
In a sense. What is your sense of the likely future? You described 20 years ago how with computer time sharing we would all have access to information utilities, and that has come to pass. And I don't want to pin you down to a specific date, because I realize you couldn't say honestly, but what are the sorts of things that are achievable?
Well, as I say, I think there are conceptual breakthroughs that have to be made. And the extreme is that, well, some smart young fellow has just done it. He just hasn't told us yet. And the other extreme is that it may take a couple hundred years, maybe 500 even, depending on how many conceptual problems there are. That is, it might take 500 years before we have computer programs that are as intelligent as human beings. Now, I'd really be inclined to bet on something like 50, although very exceedingly unlikely that I'll be around. But I simply don't know how long it will take.
Yeah. But it sounds like you're making a firm bet against the critics of artificial intelligence, who say that in theory it's philosophically impossible to
that's right.
replicate human intelligence.
I see their arguments as faulty, and I don't see that human intelligence is something that humans can never understand.
So ultimately, the project that you and your colleagues in the field of artificial intelligence are engaged in, one might view it as the most noble project of all, the one that Socrates actually urged people into, which is to know thyself, and sometimes against great odds to attempt to do what may be, in effect, one of the most difficult tasks facing humankind.
Well, it's certainly a difficult task.
John McCarthy, we're just about out of time right now. I want to thank you very much for coming here and sharing yourself with us this evening. It's been a pleasure being with you.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.